sessions. I want to really focus and deep dive on the state of AI, the state of IP in this age of AI, and kind of talk about what we can offer as a solution. So from the perspective of intellectual property, the biggest thing about AI is the fact that it represents insane amount of content getting pumped out at a very short scale. So look at this graph. So the amount of images that actually AI produced in 1.5 years is equivalent of amount of images that's actually been produced by photography for 150 years. So basically it represents an insane amount of superabundance of content at an incredible speed that's unprecedented. And really trying to abstract and see we want to think about having the right mental model of to think about the superabundance. I think Ben Thompson of Strategy actually had a really good way to think about how to think of AI, what AI is doing to IP. And he basically says every single technology disruption unbundles a part of creative process. Writing unbundled consumption, writing and literacy unbundled consumption, printing unbundled duplication, internet has unbundled distribution. Anyone with a social media profile can instantly distribute to everyone in their world with zero marginal cost. In the same way, actually, generative AI is unbundling substantiation. You can have an idea, a bullet point of ideas about your next fiction, next movie concept, and it will actually turn it into a fully fledged fiction, prose, movie, anything. And actually, what's probably the most incredible thing that came out recently is what you've seen from Sora. And anyone as a dog parent would know how hard it is to get your dog to look at your camera. And actually, you get this kind of incredible result with the sentence. So the whole process of substantiation is gone, which means there's going to be insane pace of content creation because you no longer have to have this lengthy process of substantiating your content to have a fully fledged product. And this is going to get worse and worse, or even, the pace is going to get greater and greater, right? Because the amount of compute that's going into AI is exponentially increasing. Actually, that Moore's law almost like went from 20 months to 6 months after 2010. The amount of data getting into actually training this model is exponentially increasing too, which means the infra is accelerating, and actually the pace of this AI pumping out content at a faster speed and actually having higher resolution substantiation will never decelerate. It will only accelerate. So we will see exponentially growing abundance of content going forward. And in that environment, I would like to argue actually the gating problem of AI is not the speed or performance or getting to a higher resolution substantiation, but it's actually attribution, provenance, and compensation. It's the intellectual property that is the problem, right? And don't we have actually an IP infrastructure already, you may ask? It's the copyright law, right? But the copyright law is all based on this idea of mechanical reproduction, right? The copyright law only knows how to actually punish or protect or incentivize if someone's actually copying your content, right? But it doesn't know, but AI is not a copying machine. It's not a printer. It's unprinter. It's a creative generative machine that takes all this data and gobbles up the data, takes the essence, and creates something totally new, creative, generative. And copyright law, which thinks in terms of mechanical reproduction, doesn't know how to wrap their head around, right? This generative creative machine. They've only know how to deal with copying machine, right? And what we are seeing is that the copyright law only knows how to cover and deal with the previous generation of content. But actually now, the internet is getting carpet bombed by generative AI. Now you'll see most of the internet's content being generated by Gen AI models. In that world, how do you assign provenance attribution to the content that's gone in, the content that's gone out of the AI models? So we need a new IP infrastructure that's going to cover this Gen AI age, right? And Actually, this is already playing out. You see the New York Times OpenAI lawsuit, right? You've seen the Getty Images, Stable Diffusion lawsuit. And New York Times, if you ask about New York Times article, it gives an incredible synthetic output, right? And what New York Times is actually arguing is that this is actually worse than what the Web 2 big tech, the previous generation practices that big tech used to do, because at least back in the days, big tech was decent enough to drive some traffic to your websites, right? It gives your website at the top of the search result, and you can actually go to that website, and you will make some money from that traffic. Now, there's no need to actually go to these websites, right? You get the synthetic output, really incredible synthetic output on the AI interface. So what it means is the AI interface will get all the upside of this incredible things that coming out of this incredible technology, and there's going to be no traffic, nothing getting back to the websites or entrepreneurs or creators, and this is actually a classic tragedy of commons situation. Think of internet as commons. Actually, all of us, especially the creators, are creating incredible outputs into this commons, and actually, these AI models are using these works to create an amazing AI model. But they're taking all the upside. The creators are not getting benefited from this AI revolution. And there are three actually visions of how to actually, how actually now the current big tech is trying to solve this or is dealing with this. The first is the kind of the Adobe model, which is a walled garden model, which is we're only going to train on the images that we own, right? But this is incredibly bad for actually creativity of the internet, because this is an incredible technology, and only the people with incredible number of images can actually benefit from the upside of this revolution. So it's not actually incentivizing entrepreneurship and creativity. The second one is the OpenAI model. Let's not put fences around these IPs where we'll take away all the data, but we're going to charge for it. They make all the money, but the creators are not making money at all, right? The third is the open source model. We're going to get all the data, works. We're not going to charge for it, but still, the creators are not benefiting, right? So if this internet goes into this direction constantly, what we actually think is it's going to actually get to the tragedy of commons. The internet is going to become a barren land. You may see the flourishing of Gen AI content, but the humans don't have the incentive mechanism continue to pump out the content that is going into these training models, which is actually a very bad outcome for all of us, right? So what we need is actually a new IP infrastructure to address this massive challenge that's going to put us to the brink of tragedy of commons. And I just want to give a quick historical context. If you think about basically IP infrastructure, every breakthrough in technology requires a new way to incentivize creators. Basically, that's what IP infrastructure, IP layer means. And the printing technology was the very first outbreak by unbundling duplication. And the writer and author didn't have a way to actually have a claim of ownership over these copied works. And only when copyright law became an IP layer that's administrating this kind of new paradigm of technology, actually you saw things like Shakespeare and Charles Dickens come out. In the same way, we are at a very big revolution, like the printing technology, generative AI, unbundled substantiation. There's so much new content pumping out, but there's no way to actually get provenance attribution, right? And now, with that, actually, we're getting to the tragedy of commons situation. So I think you may ask, what is a better way forward in the situation, right? Is there a more sustainable model to actually fix the situation? And I think we argue that there's two main principles around actually having a more sustainable future of the internet. The first is that creators actually have to own their content, and creators should be able to set licensing terms around their content. how other people can use their content. So they should be able to assert their rights and licensing usage terms over to the internet. And these terms have to be actually machine readable and machine writable, including AI models. So the AI models can actually go and parse through all these data and all these works and get very, very actionable next steps in terms of what they can do. If you want to actually make a commercial model, you should parse through all this data and actually exclude the ones that actually ban commercial usage. It's only for non-commercial usage, right? Only when these principles are actually enshrined and upheld, we think we're going to have a more sustainable future of the internet. So we think there are multiple paths to this go to this future, but we have a workable solution in the name of programmable IP layer, and we want to explain what that means to all of you. So the programmable IP layer is basically where the IP layer, where IPs are captured on chain. So the creators own their IPs, but creators can also set self-enforcing autonomous rules of engagement around their IPs, and these rules are actually machine readable, writable, including AI models and AI agents. And to actually give you a very quick comparison, because most of you are from crypto, the best analogy is, I think, programmable money. Programmable money took away all the middlemen in basically financial transaction, financial intermediaries. And the beauty of programmable money is that now money is code. There's a built-in API for money, and money can flow from Uniswap to Ethereum, to Compound, and anyone can build so many different type of applications on top of this programmable money, right? In the same way, what we're doing with programmable IP is now actually this creative assets can interact with applications and software in a very frictionless, permissionless manner, and many different people, creators and software, can build interesting primitives on top of programmable IP. And you may ask, has this been already been enabled by NFTs, right? But NFTs really is what it is at the moment, is a pointer to a media file, right? It gives you ownership and scarcity to this media file, but NFTs at the moment are very static. It's kind of trapped. What I mean by that is a program like, let's say you have an AI chat, character AI style application. Let's say you want to take all the Bored Apes, you want to take all the Pudgy Penguins to create new AI chatbots. How do you do that? You have to actually talk to there's tens of thousands of owners, talk to a bunch of lawyers, and have tens of thousands of legal negotiations going on in parallel, right? The NFT doesn't have the programmable layer and composable layer to be machine readable, writable, let alone any AI models, right? So what we actually do now is we have this programmable IP that we've created as a primitive. Now with these programmable IP have on-chain rights enshrined in their IPs. And now any software, including AI models, can actually read and write on top of this NFT, this IP asset, frictionlessly. And when we talk about programmable IP, it's basically what we call IP asset. And there are two elements to it. First is what we call the noun. Noun is basically the essential metadata around the IP. And not only just pointer to the media file, it has the relevant on-chain licensing, on-chain royalty information around the IP. And how we enable this is actually through the token-bound account model, ERC6551. And once you register the IP on our protocol, you get a story protocol-bound account. And actually, the smart contract wallet that you get through the token-bound account model will store all the on-chain licensing and on-chain royalty information into this wallet. And how we actually enable all these functionalities is through our verbs. These are the functions. These are the enablers of our primitives. And actually, what we do is you have an IP asset getting registered onto our protocol. Now with the module, like licensing module, you can set permissionless licensing terms around how humans and also softwares can interact with your IPs, right? You can set non-commercial and commercial usage. You can set royalty terms. You can say you want upfront licensing, fee. You can also even choose arbitration method. You can even choose whether you want to uphold ledger authority or legal authority, right? And once we have all these primitives, we have a fully end-to-end programmable IP infrastructure. And actually now all the key three principles of what makes a better future, sustainable future is all there. Creators actually own the IP. Creators can set the rules around their IP. And machine can read and write on top of these rules really, really easily and permissionlessly. And we don't think we're going to do all these alone. We have a lot of partners building on top of us to actually make this more sustainable future possible, right? The first application is really registering training data or training data sets as IP assets. Now, all these data or data sets will have their on-chain licensing terms, commercial versus non-commercial, how to split the revenue. And actually, we have some interesting hackathon projects joining us to actually innovate on actually the training side of things. Secondly, what we're doing is also the AI models themselves can get registered as IP assets. All the outputs of these models are also IP assets on top of that. And we have a provenance and attribution around what's actually getting spat out of this model. And AI models themselves can be forkable. You want to use someone else's AI model and fine-tune it, there's now on-chain licensing terms around that. Not only that, we have actually partners like Magma, which with 2 million artists. Actually now, they're registering their finished asset and actually saying they have a proof of original work. Or, okay, this artwork was mostly generated by AI. All these things are actually getting attached to the IP as an essential metadata to basically describe whether this is human-generated or AI-generated, right? So now we have a very interesting primitive where everything from training data to the AI model and the outputs of the AI model having essential machine-readable data around what kind of on-chain license in terms it will have, whether it's human-generated or AI-generated. And some may ask, I think, okay, how are you going to get all these IPs to actually have these on-chain licensing terms? And I think when people ask me that, I would actually like to point out the case of Napster versus Spotify. And when Napster came out, everyone was downloading music for free, right? For 10 plus years, no one really solved this issue. And really, it's when a very small startup in Sweden called Spotify started working with very few recording labels in a very small country, small market, and really showed a more sustainable future, things get started to be solved and had people saw a better future, right? So what we need to do in, I think, the world of crypto, because crypto gives now scarcity, attribution, and provenance, we should ally all with each other and one another actually to show how actually this IPs with the right on-chain licensing terms can be a better future for creators and IPs overall. Thank you so much.